Parasite Eve. Does it live up to the hype?
Oh crap, Bandana Man! That's where you've been all this time?
It is I, Bandana Man, back again in your game.
What the hell are you doing in Parasite Eve?
Why would I not? Have you seen all the hot-ass bitches here, and they'll do anything?
Bandana Man, I don't think you can refer to them by that these days.
Oh no, don't tell me, Lucious, you've been taken in by the wokesters. What would badass Daniel say, who punches now and takes questions later? Ow.
I should probably still play the game, though. Yes, we are talking about Parasite Eve. Now, this is a game that I remember when this came out. I specifically never picked it up. I saw my buddy playing it, and for some reason, it just didn't appeal to me. It looked kind of like a Resident Evil, but with a weird combat system I didn't understand. And then the years as went by, I always heard great things about it. Cinematics looked great, because you gotta understand, especially in the early 90s, the cinematics were everything. Turning on that game and seeing how cool the cinematics were so clutch to if a game was going to get picked up or not. And because this game really isn't that long, but it's a 2-disc game, and that just shows you how many cinematics they ended up putting in this bad boy. Which, playing through it now, finally, I completely appreciate. There's some disgusting ass visuals they do in this. Very over the top and cool. Playing this after I played Vagrant's story makes a lot of sense where this combat system came from. Now, I had some weird memory with this game where I remember there would be these little grids that would come down when the action would start and lock you in. So I don't know if that's in the sequel or where the hell that memory came from, but that's definitely not what happens. The closest thing I can think of is that when you're in the museum, there's a lot of areas where there's rugs on the ground that have squares on it. So maybe that's where this false memory is coming from, but anyways, it plays a lot like Vagrant Story. I would imagine they're using the same engine because when you go to do the action phase, you get the exact same graphic that pops up. Then the whole way where you use the toolkit to upgrade your items. Because what happens is throughout the game, you'll get these tools that allow you to remove either a facet of a gun or all the bonuses you've added. Because you can add range, you can add damage, you can add capacity. The way it plays out is you want to just load all those onto the same weapon. And then once you find a weapon that has better base stats, you then transfer all those to that new weapon. And I found the most effective gun to use that on was a pistol. Machine guns sometimes would take too long for your active time to load because with the combat, and I know I'm everywhere right now, but with the combat, once the combat phase is initiated, you're locked into this little area where you run around. The attacks happen in real time, so you have to dodge the attacks, which is not great. Like, there's a lot of warts on this game. A lot of what people remember about it so fondly, it's gotta be nostalgia. Because as cool as it is, story is wackadoodle crazy. The combat is not that great. The environments, I love the pre-rendered backgrounds. It's very much Resident Evil, but it's one of those things where I think the novelty combined with the nostalgia makes it hit much harder for people. All that being said, though, I still thoroughly enjoyed it. Especially the runtime is great. After you beat the game, you then get a bonus mode where you can go to the Chrysler building, which I didn't even do. There's 77 floors of, and then if you beat that, that's kind of the true game's ending. And this is what I love so much about games of the late 90s, early 2000s, before DLC, because come on, that's like the DLC they added the Returnal with the tower. Like, game companies don't put in things where you can miss them. They just don't. It doesn't make sense for them. In this game, I literally didn't even touch the 77 floor thing, but the fact that it's in there is so cool, so good for that replay value, such a good value to continue with the game. But enough of that. Let's talk about the game. So, like I said, it takes place, it's in an opera scene to start with. There's this crazy thing with mitochondria, which if you don't know what mitochondria is, it's in the cell itself. It's what allows, I think, the oxygen to be transferred onto the cell. For a layman's term, imagine in a world where white blood cells weren't actually part of your body, but some sentient creature that then suddenly decided to split off from the whole and become its own being. That's more or less, I think, what the mitochondria is doing. And yeah, it works in a cheesy B movie way, but the fact that you're always constantly, and the reason why is because there's the woman Melissa, who's the opera singer, is actually Eve. She got some sort of transplant accident when she was younger, and then that allows the mitochondria to take over her body. But for some reason, Aya is immune to it, and in fact, because she can resist spontaneously combusting, because that's what happens at the beginning of the game. Everyone bursts into flames. You can resist it, and you're constantly going up to Eve and be like, stick 'em up. Stick 'em up. Like, you have this giant floating demon creature that's constantly evolving and making rats turn into demons, and you just like, stick 'em up. All right, I got you cornered in the sewers. Stick 'em up. Like, the whole time you're putting up your pistol, even if you're using the machine gun or the other submachine guns, it's always the pistol. On so many levels, this game shouldn't work. At least it shouldn't work today, and yet it does. I don't know what it is. I like it. I love the absurdity of the plot. It's kind of like a Hideo Kojima thing, but not as full of itself. I don't expect that they're actually taking themselves that seriously. You have a great supporting cast. Ada, I think, the student character who comes in out of nowhere, who has a great introduction with just a cop bursting into flames. All the spontaneous combustion is great. And the best character in the whole damn thing, which is your partner Daniel, who is a no-nonsense, kick-ass, take names later. The first time you meet him, he's punching a reporter in the back of the head. He's lifting people up, jumping through windows. Out of my way, I'll blow up that damn convenience store. All right, like, it's just one of those act first, think later characters that I just love so much. He really makes the game. There's inventory management you have to deal with, the items you pick up, the armor you pick up. The most helpful thing you can have is when it says health on it, because it'll automatically use healing items on you as you're in fights, because the fights are not great. Like, it's hard to avoid stuff. It's hard to get out of the way of incoming damage. When you have to fire, it takes time between bullets, and you can get yourself in all kinds of bad scenarios. You can reload your guns through the pause menu, and then you have Parasite Abilities, which allow you to do things like heal or do other things. I never really found much use for anything but the heal, and then the Parasite damage ability, like Confuse and all those, I didn't really try to use that much. And at a certain point, the Parasite power, if you're in a longer fight, stops regenerating at the same rate, which I'm not sure why it does that. You get useless items that do nothing. You find keys and key cards and other things that stay in your inventory even after you no longer need them. You have to drop them off at the police station. For some reason later in the game, I don't have footage of this, but when you get to the hospital, you start discarding things. Like, it says, oh, you no longer have need for this, discard it. But it doesn't give you that option earlier in the game with other equally useless keys. So, I don't know. Like, it's all over the place. And another thing is, I was glad to have the DualShock controller use with this, because if you don't use the analog sticks, your normal run speed is the walk speed, which is slow as hell. Like, very slow. You have to hold a button down to run. And I'm glad I didn't have to do that the whole time. As well as it's also hard to know what you can interact with. So there are there's a lot of inconsistencies. Like, in the first area, you will move a desk to get to somewhere. I can't tell you ever do that again. Maybe 1 or 2 times you do that again in the whole game. There's crates littered throughout the game that have items in them. If your inventory is full, it won't tell you what's in there. You have to discard it to then get it. If you discard things, they're gone forever. Like I said, with the tool thing, like, it's funny. I wonder if I played Vagrant Story now, I would understand the upgrade system better, because it really was, okay, get the item with the best base stats and then just combine them together. So at a certain point, once you found all those armor upgrades, all those, like, you need to keep them together. Otherwise, you're just, because once you take the stat you want, it destroys the old item. So you got to remember that. And you can also unload the weapon so you don't waste ammunition. So if you have 30 bullets inside of a gun, drain the bullets out and then, get rid of it then. But luckily, I didn't find too much with the lacking of the ammunition. It's pretty good when you fight the enemies. You'll get enough ammo. And there's also a nightstick you can use, which I didn't really use it all that much, because in order to be in range to use the melee attack, you have to pretty much be getting attacked by the, like, you touch them and you take damage because of it. Though when you do it with that, when you attack them with that, you will have a chance to get an item. Like, you steal it from them, I guess. But I didn't really find it that useful. You have 4 different ranges of medicine, having the thing, you have a revive spell. Like, it's all very cool. It's just not much of an RPG, in my opinion. I think I understand why in the sequel they decided to lean more into the action, because that is where the game really shines, because the RPG, as cool as it is, this isn't an ActRaiser scenario where I feel it enhanced the game as much as it was a novelty. But I could be wrong. I don't know. I mean, I'm still fresh off playing it, and I enjoyed it. So that is my scrambled mess of thoughts about this game. The cutscenes were great. The two-discness, having the extra things, it's all fun. Yeah, what do you guys think of Parasite Eve? Have you played it? Do you pick it up? It's definitely... Should I play the sequel? Definitely enjoyed it. And yeah, that's what you get for this week, guys. It's been so nice getting a hold of you. Take care.